Get ready for a deep dive into the turbulent currents of a new Cold War that's sweeping across the globe. The rivalry between the United States and China, each vying for global dominance, is not just a diplomatic chess match. It's a complex interplay of pressures, risks, and opportunities that reverberate far beyond their borders. Join us as we unravel the intricacies of this high-stakes competition and explore the impact it's having on nations caught in the crossfire. This is more than just geopolitics. It's the unfolding drama of a world on the brink. The world finds itself navigating a turbulent geopolitical atmosphere where the metaphorical storm is Russia and China represents climate change, as succinctly put by the head of Germany's Domestic Intelligence Service in October 2022. While the Russian invasion of Ukraine has dominated international attention for almost a year, the underlying force shaping the 21st century is the ongoing rivalry between the United States and China. A recent incident brought this rivalry into sharp focus when a Chinese balloon entered US airspace, with Washington claiming it was part of a broader program to spy on military installations worldwide. Despite signals of détente at the Bali G20 summit, it is evident that the two superpowers are engaged in a battle for global supremacy, extending the wingspan of a new Cold War across the planet. The competition between the US and China is not confined to their internal affairs or bilateral relationships, but extends to various international arenas. Tensions have been escalating over time, illustrated by China Mobile and China Telecom withdrawing from the Simiwi 6 submarine cable project after an American firm was selected for construction. The Philippines granted the Pentagon access to military bases. Japan and the Netherlands adhered to US restrictions on microchip exports to China, and Tokyo and Washington expanded their defense alliance into outer space. In a significant development during a G20 summit, the US managed to include China in NATO's strategic concept, specifically to critique Chinese activities. This led to increased military financing for Taiwan from the American government, while Australia and the United Kingdom committed to expanding their cooperation on nuclear-powered submarines to include hypersonic weapons. China, on the other hand, has been strategically aligning itself globally. Before the invasion of Ukraine, it affirmed an unconditional relationship with Russia. In December 2022, President Xi Jinping visited Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, to strengthen ties with the oil-rich kingdom as its relationship with Washington deteriorates. Earlier, he met with German Chancellor Olaf Scholz in Beijing, emphasizing China's efforts to prevent Europe from entirely aligning itself with the US. Beyond geopolitical maneuvering, China is re-evaluating its Belt and Road Initiative, also known as the New Silk Road, a vast infrastructure project stretching from Western China to Western Russia that has lost momentum in recent years. Alicia Garcia Herrero, chief economist for Asia at Natixis and a senior researcher at Bruegel, notes that the world is in a kind of Cold War, witnessing a great strategic competition between the US and China on a global scale. Jorge Heine, professor of international relations at Boston University, echoes this sentiment, stating that there is a growing consensus that we are facing a second Cold War, now widely accepted as the conflict reveals ideological and military elements alongside commercial and technological aspects. The current global crisis, initiated by the Russian invasion of Ukraine, has unveiled the main driving force of the 21st century. The intense competition for global supremacy between the United States and China, marking the dawn of a new and complex era reminiscent of the Cold War. The world is facing a new era, described by some as a second Cold War, with the United States and China as the main players. Jorge Heine, an expert in international relations, acknowledges the differences between this Cold War and the previous one, mainly due to the size of China's economy and the interdependence between the two countries. However, he emphasizes that many similarities persist and there are no signs of immediate change. Miko Hattori from the Mercator Institute for China Studies agrees, noting strong parallels with the First Cold War, including elements of a nuclear arms race and ideological competition. The world seems to be entering a phase of low-intensity conflict between these two giants. The rivalry between the US and China is playing out on the world map, particularly in the Indo-Pacific region. The US is strengthening alliances, forming the AUKUS alliance with Australia for nuclear-powered submarines. Support for Taiwan is growing, and collaboration with Japan expands into space. The Philippines grants increased access to American military bases. Experts suggest that the US is also trying to forge closer strategic positions with India, recognizing its role in defining global power balances. However, there are limitations to this shift, given India's smaller economy and limited integration into regional cooperation mechanisms. China, meanwhile, is focusing on strengthening ties with partner countries like Pakistan and investing in projects like the New Silk Road, including a crucial railway line in Laos. In the Indo-Pacific region, public opinion seems to be fluctuating. A survey within the ASEAN framework indicates an increase in confidence towards the US and greater suspicion towards China. Countries like Cambodia and Laos show a noticeable shift away from Beijing. Moving to the European Union, EU, and NATO, the third largest global economic player, the clash between the US and China becomes more complex. While the US urges European partners to support its policies towards Beijing, Europe's diversity in opinion creates challenges. Eastern EU and NATO members see a close relationship with the US as crucial against the Russian threat, aligning with Washington's tough stance on China. However, major players like Germany prioritize commercial interests and seek to avoid a world divided into blocs. China aims to exploit Europe's dependence on its supply chain for raw materials and products essential for the green transition. The EU, in response, is working on plans for greater autonomy in securing strategic raw materials. While the US succeeded in getting NATO to include China in its strategic concept, European resistance tempered the reference. The strategic competition between the US and China puts Europe in a vulnerable position. Despite efforts for cohesion within the Atlantic community, Europe faces challenges in navigating the friction between the giants. Analysts express concern that Europe is caught in the middle, lacking a decisive role due to vulnerabilities in essential areas like security, digital technologies, and industry. The struggle for balance in a world divided between the US and China poses a complex challenge for Europe. That's a wrap for today's video on the intense global competition between the United States and China. Share your thoughts in the comments, hit subscribe, and give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed the insights. Stay tuned for more engaging content. Thanks for watching.